Hey everybody, thank you so much for joining us for Creating Canon's pilot episode. This is just us talking to you a little bit right before the big intro.
Yeah, we recorded this episode a few weeks back and realized why we never actually talked about why we're launching today.
Right.
January 21st, 2019.
Yes, indeed.
This is the 25-year anniversary of the last movie that Canon Pictures ever released, which is a movie called Hellbound. Last movie they ever released in theaters. They had a couple of direct-to-videos after that, but this is the 25-year anniversary of the death of Canon.
Oh, and we will be the rebirth.
The resurrection.
And now that we've explained that to you, on with the show.
We hope you enjoy it.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Creating Canon with your hosts AJ Hamilton and Nick Pappas.
Nicholas C. Pappas.
I'm sorry, Nicholas C. Pappas.
Thank you.
Yes, and on Creating Canon, Nicholas Pappas, Nicholas C. Pappas.
Yes, thank you.
What do we do here?
That is a great question. I feel like that's a question that I ask myself every day.
A question for the ages.
Yes,
really.
What do we do here?
My God.
And the answer normally is, well, I don't fucking know. I am a lover of movies.
Mm-hmm.
I love movies so much.
Mm-hmm.
When I had more time, I would see close to 300 films in theaters in a year.
My God.
I know, it's really sad. I worked at a Blockbuster. I worked at a movie theater. I was a projectionist.
Yeah.
Like during the 35 millimeter era.
Oh my goodness. Did you put the film into the
Yeah.
projector?
Well, we were on like the platter system, so like we built the films like really big. But like I did thread the projector and everything.
What a time.
Yeah, I mean it was a great time.
Yeah.
I built Rush Hour 2 backwards once, or at least one reel, and it was like Jackie Chan and Chris Tucker were jumping back into a building.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Did you ever pull a Tyler Durden and like splice in porn one frame at a time?
I didn't have 35 millimeter porn.
You fool.
I know.
You can find it on.
I had 16
eBay,
millimeter porn,
something,
but like 35 millimeter porn was really tough to find. And you know, one of the things that being a film, I mean, I've got hundreds of DVDs, thousands even,
probably
Blu-rays,
same.
VH. I mean, like I remember seeing Pulp Fiction in theaters with my parents.
Oh.
I was 12 because it was 94 came
Sure.
out. I was 12 at the time, and I remember explaining to my dad why John Travolta was back and alive, like in the theaters, and like. So film in and of itself is this thing that I love.
And you sort of like you read the language of it.
I do.
Yeah.
And some people love the classics.
Okay. Yeah.
They love, Casablanca and Gone with the Wind and
Wizard of Oz. Sure.
And Citizen Kane, which I do love all of these things.
Oh, of course. Yes. Who
but
could not?
I have a special love for, I don't know if we should call it trash cinema, but
It's not A cinema. It's
yeah,
not A-level cinema.
It's definitely the B stuff. Like,
Sure.
I love exploitation films. I love that shit coming out of like the 70s and the 80s. I love really terrible movies in a way.
Well, it's a fascinating look into especially the writers and the directors' minds and their interpretation of what was going on at the time.
Yeah.
And because it's not a representation of America necessarily, but it is like this weird lens that you see, like a prism that you see things through.
Yeah, it's
ideas.
It's a specific sect, right? And in some ways, it's super honest.
Yeah.
And I think the other thing that I really like about it is, at a certain point, when you watch filmmakers who know what they're doing, they make good movies. Like, I don't want to like take that away, but
naturally,
nothing is all that shocking or surprising sometimes. And what I love about some of these movies that fall under like that category of trash cinema, is that these are people who just had a camera and maybe like $50 and a bunch of friends. They have no fucking clue what they're doing.
And a bucket of blood.
A bucket of blood and a machete. And they're just going out there and doing things. And sometimes you watch something that's an hour and a half, 2 hours long, and it is complete fucking trash, like all the way through. But
Right.
like there's just one shot that is like pure artistic beauty that you cannot get unless you don't know what the fuck you're doing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So there is a nugget of talent or something just went right.
In that moment, it's like outsider art, right?
Yeah, of course.
And it's a thing that a filmmaker who knows what they're doing probably won't do because they know that it's something you're not supposed to do. But sometimes when you break the rules, you create incredible things, right?
Absolutely.
And I think it works that way with writing as well.
Of course.
Incredible.
I mean, there's a time where a rebellion in writing is looked at as poor form. But if one thing gets through and touches people, then people actually glom onto that and say, "Hey, why aren't more things being done like this?" And then that becomes the new norm or the new accepted rule.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think, I mean, you know, if you look at something like, I think a perfect example, actually, when you think of these kinds of movies, another person who's influenced by them is Quentin Tarantino. And I do not in any way, shape, or form want to compare myself to Quentin Tarantino yet. But
It'll come.
It'll come. But going back to Pulp Fiction, going back to Reservoir Dogs, that is the stuff that he is creating and he is riffing on. All of his movies riff on that. In fact,
Very much so. I mean, especially, one, the blood.
The blood.
My God. But it's done in a weirdly artistic fashion
Totally.
rather than the lack of control of the blood spurting pack or something like that.
I mean, you could look at Death Proof and like you watch Death Proof and you can go, "Oh shit, that's Vanishing Point." Oh, you know what that is right there? That moment is from Faster Pussycat Kill Kill, right? It is so riffing on this theme, and it's taking the stuff that's like in a way outsider art and making it mainstream. But you know who else did that too, if you really kind of think back further, is a movie like Easy Rider completely changed the game, right?
Very much so.
And that's going from this like polished studio system to really just gritty fucking like
Telling the story of the people rather than of what they think the people want to see.
It's totally indie.
It's Hunter S. Thompson.
It's Gonzo.
Things. Yeah, it's Gonzo journalism. It's Gonzo filmmaking almost.
Totally.
Yeah.
Have you seen Easy Rider?
Oh yes, of course. Frogs. Oh my God. Jack Nicholson
is so fucking
steals
good.
Every scene.
Almost unwatchable in a lot of ways, though,
It's
right?
true.
Like
It's
there are
true.
moments where I'm watching that movie, like
The acid trip
what the fuck is
insane.
happening?
Yeah.
Oh, that acid trip. They actually, I was in New Orleans. Nolans.
Yep.
Like maybe 4 years ago.
I remember. Yeah.
And one of the things they talked about at St. Louis 1, which is a cemetery, is that they no longer allow filming to happen there because of Easy Rider.
Oh my God.
They were not happy that scene was shot there.
I can imagine.
Yeah. I also saw the future home of Nicolas Cage's body when he dies. It is
Neat.
a white pyramid.
Oh, of course.
That is sitting in St. Louis 1.
Well, here's the fun thing: is that's going to be the beginning point of National Treasure 3
or 4, depending on where we're
depending on what he's doing.
If I get my wish,
Oh yes,
I will make National Treasure 3.
Okay, he'll be in his walker.
He'll be in a walker, and it's going to be even more unhinged than the rest of them. It's going to be full on like Nick Cage, Bad Lieutenant, just Wicker Man,
Little
the
Wicker
bees,
Man,
the
yes.
bees.
Oh.
That is what I want.
I am
more
excited.
Than anything else.
Oh my goodness, I want to be a part of that.
Yeah.
Please call me in on that.
Oh, you'll be the new Riley.
Oh,
Yeah.
Hey.
I'm gonna kill off Justin Bertha. I
perfect.
think that's his name.
Yeah.
And
The not so quick character in Geely.
was he in Geely?
Oh my God, yes.
Oh my God.
Wasn't
See,
he? Yeah.
I don't. You know what?
He was also in the Hangover movies. but
Yes,
we've
definitely in
never
the
seen
Hangover
him.
movies. Well, you know what's really funny is, as much as I just talked about how much I love trash cinema, I've
Yeah.
never seen Geely. But that's a whole other story.
Oh, That is a special thing. I'll tell that story someday.
Well, okay.
Oh yes,
let's do it.
Yes, please.
Let's do it.
But let's get back.
I was gonna say, wrapping it all around.
Yes.
One of the things there is nothing more special than when you turn on a movie or you go see something at like the New Beverly or some other revival house in 35 millimeter.
Yeah.
And that Canon Films logo comes on, and the crowd goes fucking wild every single time.
Yep.
I get like a little chill in my spine.
Yeah. You know what? I'm surprised. You've seen The Room, right?
Yes.
Of course. Everybody has.
Have I seen The
Come on.
Room?
I'm surprised that there hasn't been some sort of reaction to it, a la the Spoons. You know, the throwing something at the I mean, of course, you know, what are you going to do? Throw Canon cameras at it? Not spelled the same, obviously, and very expensive.
Cannonball.
Shoot a cannonball
You just
at
shoot
it.
a cannonball. They tried doing that in one theater in Milwaukee.
Ooh.
Yeah, it lasted one day.
Yeah, I mean, you can only do it so many times.
It was
I
Bring
guess.
Your Own Cannon Day.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, but that's fun. Do you get like gunpowder at the front?
You can buy it.
You put it on your popcorn.
Yeah, exactly.
Salty.
Ooh.
Spicy.
Isn't gunpowder sweet?
I don't know that. I've never tasted it. Just as no one should eat a dog bone, you know, the milk bones. I don't think anybody should eat gunpowder.
I think gunpowder's sweet.
Actually, I've heard that was a torture once. That they would make people eat
dog
gunpowder.
bones?
That too. But no, I think they would put it in people's mouths and then light it. It's horrifying.
That feels like it's not a good thing.
But regardless of torture, let's talk about these Canon films.
Yeah. Are you familiar with Canon films?
Here's the thing. I'm sure I've seen them before, and we will talk about this in the body of this podcast. But I realized that I had seen more than I thought.
Cool.
But definitely not anywhere near the entire body of work.
Oh, neither have I. I think there's 300
and I don't think I took note of them when I saw that. I didn't connect them together.
You didn't put it all together.
No, exactly.
I think there were 304 Canon films made over the course of like 20 years, which when you think about, a studio will at most make like 8 or 9 movies,
and that's pushing it
and that's like
nowadays.
Pushing it nowadays.
Yeah.
To think that they made nearly 300 movies in 20 years, and the bulk of that came in the 80s, from like 79, 80 to like 88.
Because they started counting up, like they would do 20 a year, then it was 27 a year, 40.
I think they made like 84 movies a year
at one point.
Yeah. Which is, when you think of the sheer volume, that's more than one a week.
And think of all the feet of film. Can you imagine that?
That's insane.
My God.
To start this off, I mean, I went to AJ and was like, look, I love this shit. This is amazing. We should do some sort of podcast. About this.
And I was all for it, but I was like, listen, you are probably going to be the point man on this. You're probably going to be the guy who knows a little bit more about the history and everything like that. So Nick actually brought me the DVD, the Blu-ray of the documentary about this whole amazing phenomenon.
Yeah. It's called Electric Boogaloo, The Wild Untold Story of Canon Films.
Okay.
It was made in 2014 by a man named Mark Hartley. Mark Hartley, known for probably Not Quite Hollywood and Machete Maidens.
And was he involved in Canon at all?
No.
Okay, gotcha.
He is purely a documentarian.
Gotcha.
And with a special love of like a very specific kind of movie.
Clearly, yeah.
Yeah. I said to AJ, like, if we want to talk about Canon films, we should watch this doc. Canon started off its life basically as a kind of pseudo art house / softcore porn.
Yeah, that's what I got the sense of, that the level that Canon was doing was, you know, sex sells, you know, and yet it still looked pretty classy. Like, not classy, like, you know, but no, it looked avant-garde. It looked like it was doing the work of a filmmaker, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I think it's funny that you say that. I think there's an exact quote in the documentary that's basically you have a softcore porn, but when it's in Swedish and shown in America with subtitles,
Sure.
it becomes avant-garde.
Well,
it becomes something else.
And yet, from at least the trailer, it didn't look like it was poorly shot either. It looked like it was well framed, and the mise en scène was there. You know, I'm gonna have to look that up. I don't know if I even used that correctly.
Yeah, you did. You
yeah,
did.
sure.
We'll go with it.
Why not? But it looked put together. It looked like something that might be at say an old Sundance festival, something like that.
Yeah, you know? and that's the exact sense I got. I mean, it looked like in some ways, because I haven't seen some of the earliest stuff.
Sure.
One of the earliest movies is like the Inga series.
Yes.
But and like Made in Sweden, I think, was one of the earlier ones too.
Yeah.
And it looks like the Swedish version. In some ways, it looks like the Swedish version of like Y Tu Mamma Tambien, right? Which is
right. Yes.
a very, and this is again judging off the trailer. We will eventually watch some Swedish softcore porn.
Yeah, this is an intro to this whole thing. If you hadn't gotten that from our preamble,
but this is going to be the pilot.
The pilot,
sort of.
Absolutely,
it's like the pre-pilot.
Yeah. Why not? The statement of our mission.
A statement of our mission,
indeed.
But when it really took off and became like the canon that I know was when these two Israeli filmmakers came into the picture. Menachem Golan, who is sort of the father of Israeli cinema.
Sure.
He is the guy who had some of the biggest hits in Israeli cinema ever.
Well, to this day. Yeah. Lemon Popsicle was one of them, wasn't it? I think that was the one that hit the top.
Yeah, a different guy wrote and directed that.
Yes,
but he produced it.
Right.
And he was like the filmmaker. He was the director. He was the guy with the vision,
and the guy who went to movies every afternoon of his childhood. Yeah, he lived at the theater.
They wanted to be the kings of Hollywood, right? He wanted to be the king of Hollywood. He loved film. Yeah. In fact, there's this quote in the documentary that I actually thought was really fascinating. It's that he would have no food at home. He had a wife and kids.
And 3 kids,
yeah. 3 kids. There would be no food at home, and he'd be out making movies.
Yeah.
Which, I mean...
irresponsible.
Completely irresponsible on one hand. But on the other, it's a specific kind of passion that's kind of...
It's amazingly misguided passion.
Yeah.
Like, I respect the guy hugely because he pushed himself so hard, and we'll talk about how hard he pushed himself. But it was clearly done without any training, any real planning on his part. He was just like, let's keep going, and there's something definitely to be admired about that.
It's funny because the word that I was going to say earlier was admirable, but then I was like, maybe admirable is not the thing you want to say when your wife and your 3 children are starving. But
the level, I think the level of passion though, like if you're not forgetting the rest of your life, the level of passion is something almost unattainable, I think.
Yeah.
Without that sacrifice, which is crazy. But you know,
it's one of those things. Sometimes I think about. What kind of life would I have if I had just like half that passion, right? And that drive, that specific kind of drive. Anyways, Menachem Golan and Yoram Globus. Yoram Globus was his cousin, who was more of like the
money man.
The money man. He was the business guy.
Sure.
He kind of knew what was going on that side of things. He was able to secure financing, which was interesting because they tried to make the Hollywood movies in Israel.
Right.
And they kind of were doing it.
Yeah,
on their...
That would have been fascinating if they had just stayed, because there seems to be a different process over there. It seems like they would have been more welcomed there. At least they were already being welcomed, and they could have parlayed that work into a lot of things. But they had those dreams of Hollywood, like you say. I don't think they even thought about how it would translate. That they were attempting to make that jump because they had seen I'm assuming that all of his favorite movies came from America.
Well. And that's like Menachem Golan. One of the things he talked about was he just in some ways wanted to remake American films. I mean, when you look at like Missing in Action, which are some of the Chuck Norris movies, which are some of the most famous that he did. I mean, it's basically Rambo.
Oh yeah, of
it's
course.
basically First Blood.
Yes.
And Rambo. When you look at Over the Top, it's basically Rocky with arm wrestling.
Yeah.
When you look at Cobra, it's basically the Terminator. When
Yeah.
you look at the Alan Quartermain series, it's basically
indie.
Indiana Jones.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's what he did, was he found things that he liked, and he kind of did these like weird low budget ripoff of them, but not in the megalodon shark mastodon for
asylum type movies.
Yeah, like those things that come out that are like completely
Transmorphers.
Exactly.
Yes. Yeah. No, I've seen those when they still had Hollywood Videos or Blockbusters.
Yep.
I've seen those on the shelf, and I've been like, some confused parent is going to come home with that, and the kid is going to be like, no, I wanted to see Michael Bay's amazing movie. And I'm going to punch that kid.
Why?
Because Transformers has been bastardized. We're not going to get into it. I'm very angry.
AJ has some real serious issues about the Transformers.
Yep.
We'll leave that for a different day.
That'll be later. But yeah, I mean, it was almost an homage.
Well,
he
might have been trying to rip them off too.
Yeah.
I get the sense. One of the things, he's one of those guys, and this is like, I don't know Menachem Golan, but I get the sense that he's one of those guys who you tell him an idea, or he sees a movie, and then the next day he remembers it, but he doesn't remember that it came from somebody else.
He thinks it was a dream.
Yeah, that it was his idea, that it was his dream. That's kind of the sense I get. And they always talked, like in the documentary, everybody who was talking about these guys talked about Golan as this like idea man. Like he was the idea man. He came up with ideas, and then he would just be like,
he would Frankenstein them together. I remember that specifically.
Yes. Yeah. He would make these things, trying to make an American films.
Sure.
That were pulling disparate elements from different things, slamming them together, trying to make things that were in good taste, that weren't. And something else that he talked about that I thought was really fascinating, they talked about in the documentary that was really fascinating, was some of it just had to do with like a translation issue, in that these were two Israeli men who grew up in Israel, who were trying to make American movies, but just something was like just a little broken in translation.
Well, I think the best example that they gave in the documentary was when they made the remake of Lemon Popsicle, which turned out to be Last American Virgin.
Yes.
After a scene in a hospital, there will be spoilers in this, podcast. But the girl's in the hospital, and he brings a small Christmas tree and a bag of oranges to her
after an abortion.
And so what does that mean?
Yeah.
What did they mean by that? And that was one of them that he directed, was it not?
That was the same guy who directed a Lemon Popsicle.
Right. Oh, yes.
Who was a different guy, and
Boaz?
Boaz. That's right. Boaz.
I wrote his name down because he seemed important. Boaz Davidson.
That's it.
Yes.
That's it.
Right, but of course an influence must have been from Menachem. I'm gonna get that wrong every single time. Every single time. It'll be a running joke.
We'll just call them the Go-Go Boys, because that's what they were known as.
Go-Go Boys,
Golan and Globus, the Go-Go Boys.
Golan and Globus just sounds like two side characters in like a Muppet show.
Or they could also be some sort of like weird alien creatures in Guardians of the Galaxy, like, oh no, get the Golan and the Globus. Bring them over here.
Yeah. I mean, but like you say, the translation, it's as if they were dropped into a different world.
Yeah.
And they were just trying to don the masks or don the personas of big, Hollywood movies.
And what became fascinating, I think, is, first of all, the fact that they thought, number one, the driving force for what was a big Hollywood movie and what would sell and what the public wants is nudity. So a lot of their early movies have just...
It's one of the baser urges. It kind of makes sense.
It kind of does.
It'll sell.
And then violence. Extreme violence.
Yes.
But in a way, so someone might be thinking, listening to us talking about these two guys and talking about canon films,
that it's all just trash.
It's all this trash. And it's like, you might be asking yourself, and rightfully so, like, why the fuck be interested? Why care? And, one of the things that I think is fascinating about Golan and Globus is their business model.
Oh, well, God, yeah.
A couple of things that is just shocking is I mean, first of all, they were American movies to be sold as independent distributors. Like, they were made and to be sold as independent distributors. And the way they actually got money was they would create a poster.
Yes, I loved this.
And they would sell the idea with the actors and the script to foreign markets.
Sure.
And
which is where a lot of the money comes from.
Which is where a lot of the money comes from.
Absolutely.
They would get that money, and then they would use that money to then make the movie, which would then be delivered the next year.
It's insanity.
Well, this is the crazy part, is that is how movies are made today. That is how so many films are made today.
Which is why so many big budget movies have to have a famous person attached.
Absolutely.
Immediately, or else that's not going to get bankrolled. Yeah.
Or if you think of like the Chinese market in films today.
Oh, yes, of course.
Who the new production company? I think it's the Hui brothers. Who are just producing so much.
Yes.
But they're producing stuff specifically that they can stamp and then sell in foreign markets. And this is exactly, I mean, the Golan, the Go-Go Boys, the Canon figured this out a solid 20 to 30 years before anyone else was doing it. I mean, they got to the point where they were getting too big for their britches and making things.
And it started becoming more of a Ponzi scheme
Absolutely.
than anything. Because in that, they're just using the promised money for the actual project. But they were later on. They were getting they were borrowing from their current projects to make the last projects. And stuff.
Just to make it happen. Forward. They were selling 4, 5, 6, 7 projects down the line.
Exactly.
And using that money to make, because when you make 84 movies, you're making a lot of shit and a lot of schlock.
Yeah. And the money must have been just sloshing all around the world at that time.
Well, at one point in it mentioned that they needed $5 million every Friday just to continue to the next week.
Yeah.
Like every Friday they needed $5 million coming in, which is, I mean, fucking...
I would like to see that once in my life, and they were seeing it every week.
I would like to see $5 million on one Friday. Yeah, that would be my own personal Good Friday.
Ooh,
heyo.
And at one point, they found out that they owed the bank $5 million, and one of their statements was,
"This was Golan, because Globus would have fucking freaked."
Right, and he was like, "I don't know if I should be."
It was he's angry that it's not $100 million because
it would make more sense.
Because it would make more sense because you'd be making more movies. That's right. That's what he said.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Which is nuts.
Yeah,
which is absolutely nuts. Well, and one of the things they talked about very early on was they would put all the money on the screen. Every single penny was on the screen, to the point where like they were eating shitty Chinese food
that they had stolen from their assistants.
They would steal from their assistants.
I actually loved this. The quote. He was like, "Oh, limousine, schmimazine, lunches, brunches," and I was like, "Wait, you're not giving them lunch?
Yeah,
you have to give them lunch.
Yeah,
what are you doing?"
Because he was
like, I get not having limousines and make them take taxis, but no lunch. That's a required part of it. They talked a lot about how by union standards they would not have made any movies.
Oh yeah, well they had this complete reputation for being down and dirty, right? There were no scruples. They were like outlaws at what they were doing.
Basically, yeah.
And apparently too, they had this like, and it's interesting because they brought this comparison up in the documentary later. They had this like Weinstein type mentality, where they could either make you or break you, depending. They would shower you with gifts if you were on their good side, or they would destroy you if you were on their bad side.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, there is an even worse negative connotation with the Weinsteins now with the
and we have no idea if that has any relevance. But
I want to make that clear too.
Absolutely, but there was pre 2016, there was another reputation that everybody knew of for the Weinsteins.
Well, and that's also too that idea of they were, it seemed, not afraid to be mean. not afraid to get in your face, not
Right.
afraid to tell you. And stories that I heard from the Weinsteins as well were exactly the same. Like, if you were a golden boy for the Weinsteins, you were a golden boy and you could do anything.
Sure.
And if you were not, they were just the worst people to work with.
They would flush you.
They would flush you. They would re-edit your movie, and it seems like the Go-Go Boys, Menachem Golan was willing to do that. To create these things.
And yet the weirdest thing is most people had not necessarily a glowing disposition towards the cousins. But the person who surprised me the most was Zeffirelli. Loved working with
Franco
him.
Zeffirelli.
Yeah, I mean he did
Otello.
Yeah,
an opera.
Yes.
But this is Zeffirelli, who's known for Romeo and Juliet.
Oh my God!
I mean,
the most epic
Romeo and Juliet of all time.
Exactly.
And actually, his exact quote is, "They are the best producers I've ever worked with." And in
Shocking.
fact,
Yeah.
Robert Forrester, who worked with fucking Tarantino and Jackie Brown,
glowing.
and,
he seemed one of the few people out of the whole thing that was just like,
his actual quote was, "Menachem is one of the best directors I ever worked with."
Yeah.
Because he was so willing to just get in there, get dirty.
Yeah.
It didn't matter. It was about the shot. It was about the film. And he was willing to do anything to get that created.
Yeah.
Which to me is, I don't know. Like, I don't know. Again, admirable or insane?
Admirable and insane, most likely.
Yeah.
I mean, there from the outside of something, you can see all of the good that they were trying to do, but the way they obviously went about it is madness, because it was unsustainable.
Well, and that's actually that's the perfect way of putting it. Not only is it unsustainable, but it almost seemed like they were on a speeding train, trying to hold things together, and not knowing that they could just stop the train, get off, fix the train,
Or they could slow it down at least.
Or they could slow it down at least.
Well, that's where they got the inspiration for Runaway Train,
which I mean,
which looks amazing.
It looks amazing,
and was had accolades behind it. Did it not?
A movie.
Voight is in it. John Voight, right? Who else was it?
Oh, I can't remember the other person.
Yeah, but we'll get to that when we
get there. We'll
jump
get there.
onto that train.
Well, and numerous people have called that one of the greatest action movies of all time. They worked with John Cassavetes on Love Streams. They won a couple of Academy Awards over the course of their time.
Shocking.
I know, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you throw enough shit against the wall, something's gonna stick,
Of
right?
course, yeah.
But they won a couple of Academy Awards for foreign films, specifically. They did that movie, that championship season, which looks incredible.
I'm excited to see that one too. I look at it, and somebody actually said it in the thing. They said 84 movies, which they were saying was they were up to, was an overambitious one director's life, one director's
or one producer's
career. And they did that every year, or they did
that in a year.
304 or so movies in total. I mean, that is, regardless, insanely impressive. That it's on celluloid, that it's on, in the vaults, man. That they checked it all off. You say, you throw enough shit against the wall, it's not as random as saying, let's make a bunch of shitty movies. Maybe somebody will misinterpret one and say, hey, that was brilliant. They were brilliant. Some of the movies, apparently, had huge merit to them.
Yeah, well, and I mean, look, I know some of these may not be like they did Stallone's Cobra, which is one of those movies that, for all its, I mean, it is not great in some ways.
No.
But also, it's actually just fucking, I love that movie.
It's sort of standard fare that you would have expected from the movies at the time.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Like, it played amongst the big boys. Speaking of Stallone, by the way, Stallone was offered a $25 million contract to do Over the Top.
Jesus Christ.
Which, up to that point, at most, stars were making like
10?
4 million.
Really?
Like,
well, I know that he had only made 4 million. Was that across the board, pretty much?
That's like what people were making. No one was throwing 10, 15, 25
million. That's right, because they were saying he wouldn't work for you for 10. And then he was like, how about 12?
How about 12? How
Yeah.
about 15? How about 25? That changes the game.
I mean, how do you talk Stallone down with the next movie? How do you talk anybody down with hearing about the rumors?
If someone's making that much money,
25 million, yeah,
they're gonna do it. And you know who else? Like, who else actually? Like, if you think about it, Jason Blum from Blumhouse, he is following the Canon model to a fucking T.
Absolutely, because go.
He's making a shit ton of movies for about $1, $2, $3, maybe $4 million each.
Yeah, starts out with the horror movies to pay the bills, and then does art house movies to just blow people out of the water.
Yeah. And you know what's amazing is if you look at how many movies the Blumhouse label releases in a year, it's actually like 10 or 15 or 20.
Yeah.
And the budget for all 10 or 15 or 20 is like 60 to 70 million, which is like, oh my God, that's a lot of money.
Right.
But, you know, all you need is one, The Conjuring, to make $100 million. Right. Or you need...
Or Get Out.
I
mean, that alone is not even just... That's not horror schlock.
Yeah.
That is amazing horror movie and amazing statement.
Nominated for
movie.
Best Picture,
I know.
Best Director, Best Screenplay, Best
So
Actor.
excited.
This is a Jason Blum movie. This is the guy who made fucking Paranormal fucking Activity, right?
Yep.
It's incredibly smart, and he's just following like what Golan and Globus did
in a more controlled way.
Yes.
I mean, he probably has accountants that are like, that's a bad idea, and he's like, maybe I will listen to you. That is smart. Thank you, Mr. CPA.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's kind of amazing what these two guys did and how they actually, whether or not people will ever give them their due, so to speak, they've revolutionized Hollywood. They've changed filmmaking. They changed movies. They changed distribution.
Yeah.
They changed all of that. And it's two guys who basically are outsiders, right? Yeah. Outsiders to the business, outsiders to the art. They were not classically trained. They did not know what the fuck they were doing.
Well, and they, you know what it's always fascinating to see is somebody trying to reinvent the wheel. Trying to get into a situation where everything has already been set out for you. If you go through the right channels in Hollywood, you do things in a set way. Like we were saying, nothing really gets changed much until one person or one company goes in and busts the mold. And otherwise, you're just going to get the same type of movies, the same type of processes that seem to work. And these guys came in and they were just like, I don't know how to make an American movie, but we're just going to point a camera and frickin' do it.
And do it.
And do it, yeah.
And what they do is they create these beautiful moments in some really terrible movies.
Yeah. Yes.
You know, one of the movies that I'm really excited to watch is Invasion USA because very specifically they went out and found out that because they said the Pittsburgh airport was going to extend their runway and they had to like knock down 12 houses or something like that, 15 houses. So Menachem Golan and Yoram Globus go there and say, hey, why don't you just let us blow up the houses? So they actually blow up 15 real homes to destroy them. They destroyed an actual mall that was going to be
remodeled, right? Yeah.
They were told they can destroy anything. And what becomes fascinating is if you don't know or if you don't want to, quote unquote, spend the money, right, to create the models of that or to even think of models or even think of to do facades.
Yes.
Or special effects, right? What you end up creating is something that is realer than real. Is insane, is crazy. You can't even fucking fathom it. And that's what these guys did.
Yeah.
And that to me is exciting.
But that's being in the right place at the right time as well. Like getting that lucky break and working within your not that they didn't throw millions of dollars at these productions, but being in the right place at the right time and working within what is happening around you too.
Right.
That's fascinating.
Being smart, figuring out locations, figuring out all of those things, saying this is what we have, this
making
is what
a
we
deal.
need.
Making a deal. Yeah.
Yeah. And that moving and shaking. And it's one of those things where it's like we sit here and people sit there and they talk about like, oh, if they talk about other shitty movies or whatnot, you know, sometimes I kind of want to say like, well, how many did you make?
Yeah.
Because these guys made 84 movies in a year.
Yeah.
I barely take, 84. No, wait, I take 84 shits in like a week.
Yeah, come on.
Well, but you follow my point, right?
Totally. Yeah.
Like,
there is very, very little drive out there.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people are cogs. These people were the fucking clock.
They're
the whole damn clock.
And they figured it out, and they did something that is admirable.
Yes.
So I think that kind of brings us to like what this podcast really comes about. So to me, what is so exciting about these things is that idea of just like, what can we learn from these guys?
Absolutely.
In these movies. For me, I mean, sure, we'll make fun of some of these movies and make fun of some of these moments.
My goodness.
And
that'll be mostly why you tune in.
Yeah, exactly.
We're hilarious.
But in a way, this is not how did this get made? This is not let's shit on these movies.
Yes.
And I love that podcast.
Me too. Yeah,
I love that podcast.
We just gave them free promotion right here.
I know, exactly. That's how much I love their podcast.
Exactly.
Now, hopefully, they'll return the favor. Give us free promotion.
I'm writing them right now.
Yeah, good.
Why am I typing on a
piece of paper, AJ?
I'm an idiot.
Christ.
God.
That's why
this is never going to work.
Fuck. Are you recording on a hamster wheel? Wait, what?
Yeah.
Anyways.
Yeah.
Moving forward.
All right.
This isn't how did this get made. This isn't about shitting on these movies.
No.
To me, I think this is about sharing these movies and finding the moments that are actually really beautiful.
Yes.
And that really work and that are actual quality movie making moments that you will not find in other movies.
Well, and we want to... The goal of this is taking all of the lessons that we can from this movie, and I honestly think if the fellas actually listen into this and they were making movies today, I think they would admire us for this. We are going to not only take the good things, the moments of beauty, we are going to learn from their mistakes.
Absolutely.
And we are intending someday to make possibly the perfect canon movie.
Our goal,
yes,
at this point,
yes,
is to quite literally create canon.
Yes.
We want to make a canon film.
Like the epitome of a canon film.
What it means
yes,
to be a canon film.
Like with all of the art and all of the schlock and find this amazing balance. It's going to evolve over the time. And as we figure out what exactly canon is at its core, because it is a myriad of things.
It is.
It's so many different things, but I think
it's two Israeli men.
Yeah.
Creating an American movie.
Yes.
And I think what AJ and I are going to try to do is be two American men trying to create an American movie that two Israeli men would have made and would love.
That's right.
That is it. So that's creating canon.
That's right.
That's what we're doing. That is our goal.
And every episode is going to be either just a single movie if it doesn't fall into a series, or if it's something like Death Wish, we may be doing a series or a multi-part
episode.
We haven't done, but keep coming back for it.
We hope to have guests over the course of the show. We hope to track down both our friends and get them on here and harangue them. Definitely reaching out to other film nerds and aficionados.
Of course, this is necessary.
And we live in LA. Like, what the hell? I mean,
a lot of these fellas are still in LA, still making movies.
Yeah,
I mean, some of them moved on to New Image.
Image, which these are the guys who are making the Expendables movies. Yeah. Olympus Has Fallen, London Has Fallen, The Hitman's Bodyguard.
That's right. Yeah.
Which all feel like their DNA is in canon.
Yeah. It's just an evolution of it all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's the goal. We want to do that, and throughout throughout the time, hopefully we'll be presenting scenes with actors.
Oh, yes.
Presenting moments with actors.
Original stuff.
Original stuff. Yes.
Yeah.
Stuff that, like,
that is inspired by.
Yeah, we have seen enough movies, and we want to write this moment.
Yes.
And cobble it together, and maybe film some of this stuff eventually.
I think we're gonna.
Yeah.
That is the goal, and that'll be on our YouTube channel.
Yep.
Obviously, you know, because you can't listen just to it. That's boring.
That would be a radio show. And who does a radio show? Oh, wait a second. That's exactly what we're doing.
Shit. It's fine.
Yeah,
it's fine.
So that's it. That's creating canon. And I think our first episode that we're going to do, our first official episode of our first official canon movie, is actually, to be fair, not actually a canon movie.
Ooh.
It is a 21st century film. It is Menachem Golan, Golan and Globus, towards the end of the 80s, actually split companies.
Yes.
And they started making movies separately. But technically, I feel like both sets of movies still sort of fall under that canon label.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Because they're made with the same
intent, kind of, yeah.
So this is, I think, the only way I was able to get AJ to actually do this podcast.
Probably.
Is to do the 1990 film by Albert Pune.
Ooh.
Written by Joe Simon and Stephen Tolkien.
Okay.
A story by Larry Block.
Okay.
And
I love Larry Block.
I know you do.
He's great.
Starring Ronnie Cox and Ned Beatty.
Yes.
Who, Ronnie Cox, you guys, if you don't know who Ronnie Cox is, he is amazing. Starring Matt Salinger as Steve Rogers. We are doing the 1990 film Captain America.
Oh.
That will be our first one out of the gate.
Yes, please.
Others that I'm sure we will get to, and I am so excited to get to over the course of time, will be the Death Wish series, some of those Charles Bronson movies. Oh my god, AJ, 10 to Midnight. Oh fuck, I saw that at the New Beverly. 35mm just recently.
Nice.
Keenjite, Forbidden Subjects, which is like insanity in like a burrito.
Ooh, I like burritos.
It's like,
I love burritos.
Amazing.
Cool.
We'll see The Apple, Schizo, things like The Blood on Satan's Claw.
Yeah, that looks amazing.
And including things like Revenge of the Ninja and Enter the Ninja, which canon, I don't know if people know this, actually started the ninja craze in America.
Nice. Are they responsible for Ninja Turtles then?
In some ways,
probably.
I think that's actually that actually connects.
Interesting.
Yeah, you
My
know,
God.
Enter the Ninja, starring Franco Nero, the Italian star.
Oh, buddy.
Yeah, it's gonna be good.
What are you doing?
It's gonna be good.
And they dubbed him.
And they dubbed him with an American. So
cannot wait.
It's gonna be so good.
Oh.
So
also, New Year's Evil.
New Year's Evil.
Did you mention that?
Oh, I did not.
Oh,
which is just.
Mwah.
It is special filmmaking. New Year's Evil is. Masters of the Universe.
Yeah,
is on that list. Breakin' 2 Electric Boogaloo,
Rappin'. Yeah,
that's a canon movie.
That's gonna be a nice long weekend.
The Last American Virgin. We have,
which is like a predecessor to American Pie. My God.
Yeah, I mean it's like a lot
Porky's,
of different.
It's Porky's,
right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Which, if you think about it, I actually made fun of The Last American Virgin for ripping off Porky's, but I think Lemon Popsicle was ripped off by Porky's.
Porky's, yeah,
which
possibly, depending on the year, whatever. Yeah,
Porky's was I think 81. Lemon Popsicle was in the late 70s.
Interesting.
So
interesting.
I mean, it's incredible when you think of like those kind of like teen sex comedies that really kind of started with Porky's, very specifically, like horny teens doing horny things to get laid. Like that was a thing that these cousins, sort of created.
The Go-Go Boys.
The Go-Go Boys.
Yes.
So join us next week on
Yes.
Creating Canon for Captain America.
Yeah, and if you'd like, we're on Twitter at Creating Canon, and we're on Instagram at Creating Canon, and you can email us at creatingcanon@gmail.com.
And that's canon with 2 N's.
Cannon.
Yep.
That's right. Thank you for that.
No worries.
All
and
right.
do we sign off? This is Nick.
This is AJ.
Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, everybody. See you next time.